3.5 years and I still don't get it right. We'll call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. And the town of Smoky Lake respectfully acknowledges that we are situated on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of First Nations and Métis people. Do you have any additions or deletions for the budget meeting? Have a motion to accept.
So I just wanted, is there, I'm gonna frame it like this. Carly sent out the line by line for 2024. Thank you. I found it quite helpful or confusing, whichever you want to say. So is there any added value? I don't know if everyone else had a chance to review it, or is there any added value to bring it in as a review, or is it just part of what we'll be doing in 3.1 with the interim comparing the three?
So if I can just comment, I mean, it's up to council. If some councils do a line by line.
Yeah.
We have to change ours a little when we do it because we have to pull salaries out. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
not fair to disclose what says we need to protect our employees, right? So that's one of the challenges. One of the reasons they teach us to discourage that is because it really gets, like they say, you want council at the policy level, at the strategic level, and then you bring them into the grassroots with an operating budget and they're going, I've literally seen. And I'm just gonna, right, I've literally seen, well, I think this budget could be reduced by $500. And then I've had to say over and over again in a meeting, okay, what you need to say is we need to reduce the overall budget by 1%. Can you bring us back some proposed changes? That's the direction we should be getting there. But ours is fairly high end. We can break it down a little more. We can bring a line by line, but we've not received that direction yet. So we're bringing back what we've always brought back. But again, it's up to you guys on what you'd like to see.
If I could just finish that, I'm okay with that. I'm just I'm putting it up to the conversation of council. We're maybe all at different places. I don't think anyone has time to go through and figure out the wages, but that's not where I'm going with this conversation. But I think if there's an opportunity in 3.1 to go back and say, well, what was from 2024, I noticed this amount, or I noticed when in reviewing the 2024 line by line, I can just frame it that way and we can move forward. I'm not trying to
And that would actually be 3.10 is the budget. This is just an interim budget. We just need a budget approved and non.
so I'm looking at the cover page on page 5. So we referenced it.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay,
page
but
5.
sorry, what I'm saying is the interim budget, we don't want to get into detail because that's literally just passing something to get us through to next year because we have to. But 3.10 is the actual draft operating budget.
Yeah, so I do have some questions, Dawn. So I don't know how you want to
So
address.
normally your interim budget is 50%?
Yeah.
50% of your operating budget from the previous year. So we didn't make big changes there. That's not an accurate reflection of what we're budgeting for this year. It's just because the province says you have to have an interim budget passed by January 1st. But if you go to 3.1, that's what we're actually looking at implementing, or 3.10, that's what we're actually looking at proposing for the budget for 2025. The interim is almost irrelevant, other than we have to have one.
Evelyn?
No, and I appreciate, thank you. And what I remember also, what I've done is talk to a lot of CAOs about how they do it. Ideally, if we had had the same CAO for 4 years while we're here, the first year we would have actually had the budget come back every single month while the CAO teaches the new council members all about the budget. And then it's after that you can do then quarterly, but we didn't get that opportunity. And like, we all know what's happened here for the last few years. And again, your first year here, I also remember that during their performance review, that when it came to the budget, we know that you weren't walking into a budget that you had any hand in. But now, when you first arrived, but now.
Yeah, but that one wasn't approved till May, so I was actually very involved in that budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, in that case, what I really, really would like to do, and which is, I'm actually, thank you for bringing this up, because I went through the line by line. And I have about 20 different questions about all the different lines, and actually, because the numbers are wonky. And they didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I really would like to do a line by line. I also, it just so happens that I have this one, where is it? Which was really helpful, but I'm missing numbers in between when we've done it. So I really think that we should be doing this because there's some kind of there's some weird numbers in there. And you as the CAO with your budget, I would like you to step us through it because I'm assuming that you saw those wonky numbers as well.
So, yeah, I mean, if
And that's
council
what
wants to make a
2024.
motion for us to bring back a line by line and we can either go through. We can bring back a line by line if that's what you want to do in 3.10, or we can leave it as is. We anticipated this with the conversation from last time, so we wanted to be prepared. But if that's what council wants to do, it's up to you guys. Like I said, some councils do line by lines and others do more of a summary, and it's just and I've never had I'd be interested in CAOs that are doing month to month with their councils because the budget is operational, so it's more making sure you guys understand the process and the overall. So, yeah,
Should we add it,
but we can,
add the 2024 line by line? It's 311 or whatever, or add the question.
or put it right in with
Or
the,
last meeting.
or in addition to the draft operating budget. We could, if you guys want that motion and to add it to, I just wanna make sure everyone wants to go through the line by line.
Maria?
So
I'm
my
fine
fault.
with it, we're very confident in our budget, so.
Yeah, and
Well, that's the 2024 though, we don't have the 2025 line by line ready for today.
okay, so and I'm confident with your budget as well. I just maybe I'm not as I'm not the expert like you are, and I want to learn. So and I maybe the agenda comes out on Thursday. I wasn't sure, are we doing a line by line? So, but I noticed you do have a future budget date, so we're getting together again. So we'll have another meeting about the budget.
And we don't have answers for a lot of the operating still, like with the last minute delegation from the Agplex and things like that. We have
Oh, yeah.
some that we need some answers because we don't have a balanced budget yet, so we can't approve 2025 budget. That's why we have the interim one in there. That one needs to get approved, but the 3.10 draft budget is to get more input from you. But if you wanted to go through the line by line that we sent out to you, we can definitely do that. We can answer any questions you have. I need Crystal here because between the two of us, you know, but
We have time. I would support that.
Evelyn?
Yeah, and a line by line only works if you look at previous years. So I'd like to see 2024, 2023, and 2022 as well. Because that is actually what this council has been operating with. So before we go into 2025, we need the past 3 years. So we have actual for
so we
2022.
want a full day workshop to go over budgets.
I was disappointed when I picked up my line by line because I thought I was gonna get a document similar to this that showed the previous numbers and I only received, like, and I realized it's a semantic, but
That was just.
I didn't describe it, but I'd like 2024, 2023, 2022, because that means that we as a council, that was 2022 is 2021 was you guys. So when the three of us came in, but 2022, 2023, which are actual, and then 2024, we should by then have a full, because it's in the new year, right? Except for,
To some extent, there's still things that get added late and, so that would be an addition to the next budget agenda, I'm thinking you guys are asking for, if that's what you guys want.
Well, I don't think that's something that can be done today, obviously,
No,
so.
we only
yeah,
have
that'll be a-
24 ready for today.
Yeah, it'll be.
So, but we have to decide if that's what we want to see going forward first by council.
That could almost be a workshop. If you want, before the next budget.
I'm fine with it being at a budget meeting.
Yeah, that's, I just thought less formal, because there's gonna be a lot of questions rather than the back and forth, right, with most, where with going through the chair. It's up to you guys though. Again, it's your,
Maria?
So I think for clarity, I'm not even sure what Evelyn is referencing there, but I would like to move forward with today and accept the agenda, but I would like to have, as Crystal, I think, mentioned, 3.11 to have, and even if we do a high level overview, that would be okay as well. And maybe just see how it goes. And it could be a second motion for the line by line in the new year.
Right, Mel? Okay, what, do you wanna put under 5.1, last minute addition, just do line by line, go over line by line budget?
And not
Yeah.
what Crystal said.
Yeah,
we-
No, I think,
That's where-
I think
okay.
last minute
yeah,
addition.
I agree, yeah. And then either way, we could still provide you with the 22-23, right? Like, we can still provide that and maybe going through it today and then we provide you that document, then you can decide if you want another meeting to go over those details, right? So, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So if that's okay, if I move to accept the agenda with the addition of 5.1, 2024 review of the line by line budget as presented in the email. September 5th.
All in favor?
No, actually, I have. I wanted to ask, are 3.3 and 3.2, we're discussing the Housing Accelerator Fund update, but some of what we're talking about in there actually influences our capital budget. So it's gonna be, thank you. So I would suggest, can we switch 3.3 and 3.2 because otherwise.
Sorry, I thought I did, so
Okay.
Yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah,
Okay, so.
no, I sorry, I thought I did move it ahead of there and I don't know, it got, yeah.
So it's
I must
just
have
when I was
dragged
going
it
through
through.
it, I went, but in, I thought, well, the thing that I actually want to tackle in the capital budget is actually right in the next following item. So
Thank you for catching that, yes.
you very
for
much.
sure.
And otherwise, yeah.
All right. Want to just add that to your
As a friendly
or amendment?
Very friendly.
Okay, so I'm gonna start again and frame the motion as I move to accept I move to adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of 5.1 line by line review of 2024 and a switch from 3.2 to 3.3, so that the capital budget would now appear as 3.3 and the Housing Accelerator Fund update would be 3.2.
All in favor? Any opposed? None, so carried. All right, so we'll move to 3.1, the 2025 interim operating budget and a 3-year financial plan.
So that's what I was saying, this is purely to get something on the books so that we can spend money in January. We're required by the NGA to pass an interim budget, but this does not at all reflect what will actually be approved next year. So.
Evelyn?
If it is at 50%, which you said, and thank you for saying that, because I was going through my EOP course again for municipal finance before here, then why are the numbers the full budget numbers?
Mel?
Yeah, I had the same
Yeah.
question.
So that the motion should,
The NGA says part of the calendar year. That's how it's been run before.
so shouldn't it actually read that we adopt the interim operating budget at 50% of the 2024 approved budget numbers?
That's what I would do, yes.
That's what, okay, so thank you. So I heard you say that. Yeah, as soon as you said it, I went, oh, good, you said, you know what, I'm
So,
figuring out.
But this is, yeah, that's, we've done it differently here before, but that is the right, 50%.
Correct, is to
Yeah.
say 50% based on the previous year's budget.
Yeah, it just allows us to spend money and continue running the municipality and staff.
It's your motion.
Okay. All right, okay, so I would like to make the motion that Town of Smoky Lake adopt the interim operating budget at 50% of the 2024 approved budget numbers. I gotta go up to the rest of it. And as per the Municipal Act, Section 2422, adoption of operating budget and administration prepare the 2025 operating budget to be presented to council to review and adopt at a future budget meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so carried. All right, we'll move to 3.2, housing.
Oh, sorry, number 2, there's a second recommendation there.
So doesn't that need to be deferred? Because we can't.
Do we need to do the 3-year plan though? Okay. If we can adopt it as well. And
But
in
why are we adopting it when we have to go through 2024? Then review 2025. I'm not gonna adopt a budget for 2026 to 2028 when I still don't have a grasp of 2024.
well, this, it's just interim though, although that one doesn't say interim,
It doesn't
it's
say.
financial. I think that we can-
Except,
I think it's just the interim budget that needs to.
Just- yeah.
Should be it. Yeah, we're good.
so something like that, we're just gonna leave?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that would include the actual, oh, this is the 20. Oh, I see, the 26th, 28th.
Unless it's in the MGA that we have to have a temporary in case it doesn't get.
Which is not included in the RFP. It's just the interim budget.
I think we're okay to wait on that. It's just the operating. Yeah, and we've got that, right? Yeah, we're good. Okay,
All right, we'll move to the Housing Accelerator Fund update.
Before we move on, would this be a good time to have a motion for either a printout or an email of whatever Evelyn flagged in the 3-year that's been completed, the line by line for 2022?
I think that would be in the late editions when we're doing the line by line.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't want to lose track of that.
No, for
Thanks.
sure. We'll make sure that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna,
Update.
would you like to speak to this?
Yes,
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
You wanna jump in on anything after? So for our first year, we had the 5 initiatives, so the accessory dwelling units, that initiative has been completed. The second is the sale of the town land, the affordable housing focus. That one is in progress and almost completed. We just need to finalize our policy, but this town land sale part is done. Initiative 3, the affordable housing initiative program. That one is in progress. And then number 4 is implementing our e-permitting software. So we're ready to go with the iWorks permitting. Start using it. So yeah, we're gonna start fresh in 2025 with that. And then initiative 5 is the small and tiny dwelling guidelines, and that has been completed. So we have the funding for the 121,548 for the next 4 years outlined. The next project for implementation in 2025 is proceeding with the fourplex development at lot 8 and 9, block 1, plan 1885 CL. So we're looking to do a partnership between the town and a developer. Once we acquire the properties, proceed with the RFP. And we're gonna require a minimum of a fourplex to be developed there. So that would be in alignment with the affordable housing policy and will help us meet our targets for the HAF grant. So we've included 55,000 in the capital budget for water and sewer line installation in Maria Close. So lot 37, 30,000, and then the remainder for Maria Close, 25,000. So using it to help fund that lot 37 will again help us meet our objectives for the grant and contribute to future property taxes and sales of services like gas, sewer, and water. So in terms of budget, the utility connections for the fourplex development, 7,500 per unit, 15,000 total in-kind costs subsidized by the grant, assessment value of the lots. The lot 8 is 25,800, lot 9, 24,000. Tax arrears owing, so the town will have to pay that back when we purchase lot 8, 18,326.45, lot 9, 22,503.85. We've paid for iWork 16,315 out of the grant. Lot 37, again, a cost of 30,000 for utilities, the Maria Close lot, 25,000, and total cost to be funded through the grant, 121,150.
I could just add to it slightly, if that's all right, if you don't mind. So the utility connections are an opportunity cost, so if somebody else went in there and developed, they pay that amount, so we're saying that we're paying that amount out of the grants to offset those, right, to go against the grant, but it's not a true cost. And then we need to buy the lots because they're tax recovery lots, so that's, and that we haven't owned them long enough to not, so that's that almost 50,000 there for lot 8 and 9, but then the outstanding taxes come back to the town. So we do get revenues out of that as well. We'll spend the grant money to buy these lots for this project, but then in turn, we get the taxes outstanding. And then the rest goes into an account, or it's for the courts to deal with the previous landowners until year 15. And then lot 37, I was very much on the fence, and it's gonna be very much up to you. So the way I was looking at it is, so we have an opportunity to have an empty lot and use grant funding, so it doesn't cost us money, but it is costing our grant funding, right? So we can put in the utilities for 30,000 using grant funding, which then we do have somebody who's asked to put a small home on that property. We would then get property taxes of about $1,000 a year, say, based on other homes in that area, plus sale of gas, water, and sewer. And then the other thought was, it does go against one of those check boxes for the HAF grant that we've got, because we need to have a certain amount of development. It is a lot to invest for one home, so it's going to take many years to pay that back. But it isn't the town's money, it is a grant. So you guys really need to make a decision on whether this is a good idea or not. So that's just kind of my input on that.
Evelyn? She was,
Yeah, sorry, thank you. I think we've invested enough in that area. So I'm actually for scrapping, not investing anymore in lot 37. Also, when I was talking to the mayor of Bow Island, he was saying that there was another round of federal grants that are coming out as well too, that we might be able to tag team onto. So I'm not gonna give up completely on 37, but I actually think that when it comes to our HAF grant right here, I would rather use the money for investment, especially when we're talking about like the fourplexes and so on. I think we've done enough investment over in that area for now. Instead of pouring more money into it, I'd like to start spreading it around to the other areas.
Evelyn, Marianne?
Okay, thank you. I might disagree, but
Yeah.
we'll chat later about that. Thank you, Pam. I think you did a wonderful job preparing this for us. And my question is targeted to lot 37. With the 30,000, and help me understand, I might not be aware. So we have services, the facilities exist to the property line. So we have the lines in place, the water and sewer. It's just that lot is not serviced from the street to the potentially where the house would be, or am I understanding that correctly? And not to be combative or anything, and maybe I don't know prices and I'm not a developer, but 30,000 seems really high.
Was the quote we received.
And that was, I don't, yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly who we
Okay,
got
so
the quote from
I
at this
don't-
time, but John sent it to me, yes.
But council didn't see that.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay,
because-
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to ballpark that figure. But if it was put out for development, the developer, like you said, Dawn, would be responsible to provide
That would
this.
probably wouldn't be a developer. That was one that would, if we're going to do anything with that lot, it's probably gonna be us doing it. Because it's a tiny little lot, right? There's no other use for it other than a little green space, or if, I assume if the neighbors wanted to buy it, they would have put, but we could, that was one other thought I had, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm torn, and not to disagree with you, but it seems like there's value if it's the grant and the work that you've done on that, Pam, thank you. I just don't know what the best decision at this
One of the
point.
ways I looked at it was if we use $30,000 of the grant to get one more and we can get that next level of the grant, we get another 120,000 because of that. But that doesn't mean we wouldn't hit that landmark without it. So, yeah,
What-
we are doing a lot, so.
What are the options with the 30,000? Has there been any thoughts of where else it could be spent, I guess, within?
Well, the other initiative was development of a small homes community, right? So that's the objective that we're bringing back in year, I think 3 was with the long range plan that we had talked about. We brought to council a few months ago. So that would be, your roads, your maybe driveways, maybe utilities, like we'd have to bring that one back, which would probably be honestly at this point into the next council, but yeah. That was one of the other big projects that was on our long range plan for that grant.
I'm not opposed to putting it here. But, Evelyn?
So does that 30,000 have to be earmarked for that, or could it be like is this a chunk that you took out of the one amount that to be used for it, or is there something that the government says you have to spend it on?
No, we
This-
can, we reached out to the grant and said, does this fit the criteria for the grant? And they said yes. So again, there's a certain number of developments we need to do and a certain number of development permits and whatnot that we need to do, and this would just contribute to that because that area is, just like the fourplexes, is considered affordable housing, so that's why it fits. So it would be creating another affordable housing initiative in Maria Close, and like I said, we have somebody that wanted to would like to, they're next in line, because we bought it back from the previous owner, so they're the next one to say, you know, I'd like to put a small home on there. So we said, we need to find out if we can sell it, and for the 2,500, right, so.
Mel?
So I'm on the fence too a little bit. I've been thinking about it, but I'm afraid that if we don't use the grant money to service that lot will never become usable space in the community, like, or taxable. So I do think it does check a box off, and it also I don't foresee the town using reserves or anything like that ever to service that one lot over there ever in the future. So it's an opportunity to do that now and to check that extra box to potentially help us get to the next 121,000 to reach that goal. So kind of leaning like we should keep it in the budget. But I understand it will take a long time to recoup that cost, obviously through tax base. But I'm a little concerned that it'll never be anything otherwise.
Mary Ann?
And I support what Amy said, that maybe that 30,000 could be put towards the initiative number 5, the small and tiny dwellings, or a future project, right?
I was just asking what that could go to, but I feel that it'd be nice to kind of finish off that area. It's done and we don't have to borrow money or whatever it is. Yeah, so it's, but I'm leaning more towards finishing off the area. But I just wanted to know if there was something else that was.
I agree.
Oh, Evelyn.
Okay, one last question, then I would like to hear it, Terry chime in as well. When it comes to the fourplexes, because actually I don't want anything stalling us there. So we're gonna have developers that are probably going to come and say, oh, we'll develop it, but they actually want us to pay for all of the connections to the utilities and so on. So this 30,000 we could be using toward that, because it's gonna help attract developers, because they're gonna want something from us.
Got it.
We have the $15,000 for utility connections is our charge to anyone who wants to do it. So we're saying with this grant, sort of, right, we're gonna cover those costs. So that's already in this. The 121,000 to spend this year includes that it doesn't include that because it's an opportunity cost. It's one that we're losing because we're not, right? We would make if we sold it to, in general, to somebody, we would make that money. We're just not going to make that money. And then we'd use the funds to purchase the lots. So the 49,800, we'll actually buy the lots, which then we'll make 40,000 back on taxes, 41,000 back of that on taxes. So that 121,000 includes the fourplexes. So that includes us saying, when we do the RFP, we'll say, it'll include utility costs, all connection costs. So even if there's some out of pocket, we'll cover that, as well as the lots. And the idea is you build them, and then we sign some form of agreement that for a certain number of years, say 10 years, you adhere to the affordable housing policy. Okay. So then, and I've had a couple people interested that I've chatted with already, so it's a way to, and then we could even, there's actually I'm not sure, we should talk after, but there's some new tax concessions that you can make on residential now as well that have come in. So there's some other potentials that we could work, we need to make sure we're ready to move. So Pam and I've already talked about consolidating the lots to get that part done. And then so that we can get the RFP out right in the beginning of the new year. Because I want to have this all ready to go. So this spring they're building. Okay, so that's included here.
Just my last final comment, because I do want to hear from Terry, and that is, we also have right across the street a new property that potentially has come into our hand, and that's Willow Creek. So there's a potential for even building a third duplex or whatever that could be connected to that as well too.
Not the current tax recovery one, a different one.
The Willow Creek.
It's the current.
Mel,
Oh, yeah, I forgot I had my hand up.
Because that would be three.
The one we
instead
got
of two.
already?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if there's room for a duplex on there, though, is there? We'd have to look at that, but yeah, we thought small home, but yes.
Dawn answered my question. I was just gonna ask her to break down what the incentive was to a developer, and she did, so I'm good. Thank you.
all right. Any other questions? Otherwise, oh, Terry,
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yes, I think that we have enough properties as it is to spend that money on running services. I would agree that it maybe would be more beneficial to spend it elsewhere. And when we say that we're recovering our taxes, that includes all the expenses that we incurred for demolish and cleanup, right?
I'll have to double check. But it should, yes, as long as that was done as an unsightly and applied to taxes, if it's not done that way, then potentially no. So we'd just have to check how it was done.
Okay, thank you.
Mel,
It was after we acquired it, so I doubt it.
Cause that's one of the, cause when I reached out to legal about the Willow Creek over here, that was one of the comments was, if we just tear it down, cause we want to develop in the future and then we're going to basically acquire it or sell it to recover those costs, then that wouldn't necessarily be covered, but if we decide to deal with it as an unsightly, there's some potential that we could apply that to taxes, so we just have to look at the best way to do that. So, and I'm not sure if I didn't double check that with Tamara, so I have to double check if that part was in here or not.
Evan,
Is that information that we can have in January, February, when you?
For the Willow Creek or the
Yeah,
duplexes or
like what you were
both?
saying you're saying you reached out, you could do this or you could do this, but you're not quite sure
I'm
as.
not sure which route we're gonna like, yeah, we just need to make sure our land use or our, what's our bylaw? Community standards bylaw, covers it appropriately, and then we can do it through as an unsightly and say we're demolishing, give notice, well, it's ours now, so. And we just work with legal to make sure we do it right, to have those fees applied to the. Okay.
Because these
In
are
the end,
options.
because in the end, if we're developing it, now so that one, for instance, and I don't, the lot value, the other ones are say 25,000, so it's probably around the same for that lot. And then you add 6,500 to remove it, so now you're selling it at 30-some thousand. So either way, if we have this grant, then we can purchase that lot with the grant if we're building affordable housing on it. So then we could look at that as one of the initiatives for next year as an addition, right? So, yeah. Well, we're gonna do our best to get it through that way, and that way then we buy the lot for 30,000 or 25,000, which is the market value, and then we get that back based on, right? So based on outstanding taxes, so.
Mel,
If we keep the 30,000 in the operating or not the capital budget, how can we keep it as an option? Because I would be in favor if we are able to use that $30,000 to purchase an existing lot that has come to the town and can recoup the cost of our taxes and demolishing that. I would be in favor then of using the $30,000 from the grant towards that. But we don't know if that's possible yet.
Well, it will be regardless, it's just a matter of whether it'll include the demolishing costs or not.
But that would.
But we also get
affect-
another 121,000 next year,
Yes.
right?
that's
So then we can use the second phase to fund that next home regardless, so saving this one to do this one, you don't necessarily have to, we could do both.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Cause we get that
Thank you.
121 and then there's more objectives that we need to hit in the next year. So then that one will go towards that
Okay.
next level of reuse. So I think we're close to, if not, like once we're all done all these, we should get year 2.
Yeah,
We're
we're on.
So then it'll be now getting also, these are also going towards now year 3 to get, so what do we need to finish by the end of next year to get year 3? And then you need to do what can you do in year 3 to make sure we get year 4. Year 4 is the hardest one to get. But we're on track for it, so.
No?
Okay, then I'm back to doing the 30,000. It is a balancing act to try and use the funds, so like the most efficient way.
Yes.
To use the grant
Yeah.
funds for sure, and I think we all agree that it's, yeah, that's what we want to do with this money.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna help us meet our target, cause yeah, year 4 will be the hardest target.
And just to add to that for the lot 37, and thank you again. So based on what you're telling us and the recommendation, you have potentially someone that wants to put a tiny home. And
We have 2 people that have expressed interest. The number one wants a tiny home, or a small home, maybe a small home.
it's zoned.
And then
for
the
that.
other one just didn't give us an idea of what he wanted on.
And
he or
so
she.
that lot would be zoned for that, and that wouldn't be
A small home, it still needs to go to MPC, but the last one was approved.
So we have 248 square foot going in there.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of exciting actually. To show that we do, like, to promote that we do small homes, it's, yeah, I thought of
way
it.
of the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know.
And I do know, yeah, I don't know, I guess it just opens up some other opportunities with that, right? So if this individual moves into a small home they're currently renting, now there's another rental, I just, you know, it's hard to, again, I get it, because I'm like, oh, do you spend 30,000 on this lot, it's gonna take but 15,000 or 15 years or 10, 10 to 15 years to pay back, but then if it's somebody new moving to the community, ultimately, even into that rental spot, again, it's still growth. So, I don't know, I was the same with you, I was very on the fence.
No, and I appreciate that
yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
thank you.
No?
If there's no further discussion, I can make a motion that the town of Smoky Lake accept for information the update provided by administration regarding the implementation of the Housing Accelerated Fund initiatives.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so carried. All right, 3.3, capital budget, 5-year plan.
So I'm just bringing this back again, as I mentioned in the last meeting, if you do, oh, I'm on the wrong one. If you do want to go into detail on specific line items, because it has been a little bit, I know I let you all take them home, so you should have them, but we can go into close for that, as I said, to protect the municipality so that when people are bidding on these projects. But nothing's changed since I brought it back. This is the 3rd time, nothing's changed. This does include, as you can see, it does include, because you can see the list of what's approved. So it does include Marina Close. And just looking to see if you want to approve the capital budgets. Or ask questions or go into details, it's up to you. And all of our funds for this year that are in here are covered under the combination of the MSI, which is previous MSI, now LGFF and CCDF from last year. So that does not include what we're getting for 2025. So it's what we currently have in those funds. So all covered by grants. And covered by grants, and as well as there was the breakdown, because I also have, the surplus, sale of surplus equipment. One will only be done if an outside grant is received for the furnaces here. We just applied for that last week. One portion will be covered under the natural gas surplus, the reserves. And then part one would also be the local improvement tax. So that covers 178,000, and then the rest under the grants, 722,500.
Evelyn?
Sorry, I missed that. When you're talking about the grant, are you talking about the rooftop furnace replacement?
Yes, the 2 rooftop furnaces here are
For here,
aging
this
out.
building,
Yeah, and but if we go energy efficient, there's potential to be covered by a grant. So we applied for the grant. 50% would be covered by the grant. We budgeted for the other 50, but we will not proceed if we do not get the grant without coming back to council if we decide to do one furnace. But I think I tried it for another grant, honestly. We've been doing so many good energy efficient things with this building. I think that helps us, so.
Evelyn?
So I'm looking at the drop-in center, and I remember discussing this last year, and I actually wanted to be put on the capital budget last year, but we chose a different town building. So that town building, but that money, what happened to that money that we earmarked for that, but wasn't used? So is it running?
Next agenda, it's still there, but they did not get the CFEP grant, so planning on reapplying for the CFIP grant, but I do have an agenda item in the next one on whether or not we want to proceed with some of the basic repairs to deal with the deficiencies in that building with the intention of using it for town operations. It was just a proposal, so it's in the next agenda.
Using capital.
It's in the next agenda.
Okay.
I'll explain it way better there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's still there. It has not been spent. Yeah,
Mel?
Yeah, I had a similar question to Evelyn, because I had reviewed both agendas. One right
It's been a
after
lot,
another.
yes.
So, I was wondering, I just wanted to correct you to check my memory.
Yeah.
So the other town-owned building that we are referring to, it was in if we got the grant.
Right.
So because it was not successful, so that's why we decided to put in both projects for the drop-in center into this capital budget, right? Cause we'd already always planned to do them.
Yeah.
On this next year, but the other one was dependent
Right.
on the grant. I
So in
think.
my next budget or in the next meeting, I'm proposing, should we go ahead with that?
Right.
And still, but I didn't want to spend the funds because it was very clear in the capital that it was to be offset by grants.
Yeah.
So I have a
Okay.
proposal in the other agenda. So that, yeah, so that's not included here because it was last year. That money is still there. If it doesn't get spent on that, it goes back into. It stays in the grants, sorry, we wouldn't apply.
It
for-
stays where?
Within the grants. It was gonna be funded by MSI, LGFF grant funding, right? So if we don't use it, we just don't apply for the grant. Capital, when we spend the money, is when we get the money back. So if we don't spend it, we just, the money's still sitting there.
Marianne?
So then for clarity, what Mel referenced, it's not built into any of these numbers.
No, it's
a
last year's approved capital
Thank you.
budget, yes.
And so then I'm just, my other concern is when we talked about some of the paving projects, I don't know that we've identified, I just see the one, right? So we had that,
The Ironhorse Loop.
Yeah, we have the Iron Horse Loop and the 53rd Avenue are the two that we were doing next year. There was another one that was initially in and I brought back that it was actually a $2 million project, not 100. I had the loop, I had the numbers backwards in my spreadsheet. I missed one. So at the last meeting, I mentioned that I had moved that one to next year consideration because we were currently funding the water reservoir. And our percentage, our portion of that is 1.3 million, I believe, or somewhere around that. So I was hesitant to add it to this year's when we're in January applying for funding for that. We can add it back, so if you want it in there.
Evelyn?
And when it comes to the sidewalks repairs, we had some sort of, what was it called, the sidewalk doctor or something come up. So was that taken out of our, yeah, sidewalk? So it was that, who were they? Like they came up and they did repair and they did take that out of what our budget
Yeah,
already? So this has nothing,
we budgeted $10,000 a year for
Yeah.
sidewalks so that we can continue maintaining, so that we just, areas that need to be addressed each year are addressed.
okay.
So basically they go neighborhood to neighborhood and we just, what needs to be done this year, here's our budget.
Okay. Because my concern at this point, and I accept my responsibility in this as a newer counselor, but we've talked about infrastructure, but we actually haven't actually sat down and made a plan for to map things out. I think council's kind of,
We have in the 10-year plan that I brought forward, right, at the first budget meeting in closed, it laid out
okay,
the entire 10 years and it laid it out based on 2 MPE reports. One was the building infrastructure report, that's why the crawl space is in here. And the other one is the infrastructure one, which is roads, sewer and gas. So that 10, and that's why the numbers are so high in there, because these reports were done in 20 and 21, and then we started adding them last year. So now the 10-year plan is there, and I think it's gonna be more like a 15-year plan, because there's a lot of infrastructure in there that needs to be addressed, as well as, but things like the CP grant for 46th Street, the advantage is we end up with a, and that's not quite ready yet, that's why it's not in here. It's now becomes a shovel-ready project once that's ready, once that's done. So then the hope is there's grant funding that comes up, because there's one that just came out, there's some potential there. Over a certain population is the majority of the grants, but there were some for smaller populations. So if we have something shovel-ready, there's potential we can get a grant. So that's the advantage of having something like that on the corner as well. But we do have that 10-year plan based on MPE's reports, and we
That
can,
we as a council have never reviewed together.
it was at our closed session, capital budget meeting.
That was the one that I had to ask for the printout for.
No, that's the one that I presented in closed and let you guys take home.
Well, then I'm sorry, I'm really confused. We need to probably talk about it again because I'm not
for sure.
actually understanding any of this. And if the other four say, yep, I know exactly what we're talking about, I'd be shocked.
Hi, so there's two plans, and I think that's why you're getting confused. So Dawn, we have the MPE plan that was done, a study for our infrastructure. And it was like a very large document, scanning of the pipe, videos, everything to, yeah, so that study was done. So that's the big one. But then the administration put together a 10-year plan that we reviewed. So two different plans, one's like a really big overall of the town, and then there's our 10-year plan that we approved to hopefully get our infrastructure up to date. Now things do happen, and we have a huge, if we had a ton of money, we would do a lot more. But because of the reservoir, I'm happy to see the projects, two projects for next year. Those are quite big projects, but we have some really big ones coming up. But yeah, we had two separate plans, and I think that's what's confusing, because the one is like a big study, and then there's a 10-year plan. So I think we're getting them mixed up when we're talking about it. So then it gets like, what are we talking about?
So I'm not yet, and I'm not gonna approve budgets on something that I'm so confused about when there's two of them. So clearly we need to take a look at this again, one last time. So that I'm not confused, because there's two different reports. You just had the one that was printed out. That,
Mel, do you want to go into camera? I'd like to deal with it today if we can. Do you want to go into camera and do that so that we're all on the same page?
looks like we're going into camera anyway, so let's finish up all the portion that we don't need to be in camera first.
Yeah, for sure. I'm good with what we have going on here, so. Can you go ahead?
Okay,
Done.
so
Sorry, Mary Ann, I'm not the chair.
I kind of understand what I think everyone's saying, and in Evelyn, what we have not gone through as a council, that the larger document you spoke of. We had 19 initiatives, and Merrick talked about it. It was done in, I believe, 2018 or 19. And I think there's, out of the 19 projects, maybe one is completed. So yeah, I guess it's our responsibility as council to take a look at that, but I'm quite confident it's mapped out in the years to come. So is it the will of council at this point to go into camera and?
Mel? I think for sure. I think if we have some questions, let's get them addressed, those that we can, so yeah, so that we're all on the same page.
But I thought we were gonna deal with what's on the agenda and then go into close at the end is what
There's nothing enclosed.
Okay,
What I was referring to is that we should discuss the budget as much as we can in public.
Mhm.
Because we're supposed to. We're gonna get in a lot of trouble if we don't, because that's what we're obligated to do. But there are certain, of course, so 90% of this can be talked about right now. But there's this 10% that when it comes to specific numbers that Dawn is advising us to go into camera to discuss. So that future developers, or contractors, when they're watching this, don't know our exact numbers.
And that's what municipal affairs has stated, yes.
Mel, okay, well then in that case, can I ask, for the 10-year, can I ask for a printout of the 10-year plan so that it's printing, okay, perfect. So as for this operating budget or the capital budget, the only concern or anything that I wanted to talk about, was in, I just gotta get to it, sorry. Oh, yes, here we go. Okay, so there's the water sewer lot 37 Maria Close in here for 2025. Then there's the Maria Close water line replacement. That is our infrastructure replacement. I
Yes.
needed an update. Okay,
Yeah, the water and sewer lines that are going, just, yeah, that have been in there and sitting for that many years.
okay.
There should be 2 pages for each. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just needed a little refresher that I figured that's what it was that we had talked about, but I just couldn't remember. So other than that, I am comfortable with the capital budget.
Do we want to go into close to talk about the 10-year plan, capital plan?
As long as everybody is gone through the question.
Yes.
Not imposed. Evelyn,
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
all in favor?
I,
You need to keep Terry in on
And
this.
none opposed. Okay, everyone else can go out. Motion to come out of-
I'll make a motion to come out of closed session.
All in favor?
I,
None opposed. So carried. Marianne?
I'd like to move that the town of Smoky Lake defer the 2025 capital budget in the amount of $900,500 for the 2025 capital projects as presented to the next regular budget meeting. And include the 2024 capital projects. Update.
Thanks. All in favor?
I,
None opposed to carry. All right, 3.4 municipal world subscription cost. Mel?
I was just reviewing these, let me just see here, I'm gonna make the motion first, then let's have a discussion on it, I guess. I'll make a motion that Town of Smoky Lake cancel the municipal world subscription effective January 1st, 2025. Now can I?
Yeah.
Okay, so now my discussion is, to cancel what we have, I guess is the motion that I was thinking, and then if, like, for one, like, I know there is, people who really use it, so, it just, then I would suggest that anybody who is very interested in it to, like, if we were gonna do 1 or 2, then that would be, a cost savings there instead of everybody having it and not utilizing it. So I'm comfortable if, like, not to call it, like, Evelyn, I know you love it and I think you should have it. So I would be comfortable, like, and then making a motion to have 1 or 2 subscriptions, not for everybody who's not using it. That's all.
Marianne?
So I have 2 questions and then I'm going to probably make a suggestion, but currently, which GL does it come out of? So if it's the 795. Yeah.
Meals and council expenses.
And how many subscriptions do we have currently?
Unlimited or up to 50 members at $66.25 a month. Which is the 7,
So I would hope that it's coming out of our counselor GLs.
yes.
And I think that there's room, we reviewed them in the budget. If there's room that counselor should have it in their training GL.
No.
Yeah, so but you're comfortable with, like, I guess I should ask administration. Is administration, like, it's up to 50 members, are we using this appropriately? I don't feel like we are. Not everybody is utilizing it. If we want to have 1 or 2, or have 1 at the office. And then the counselor have 1, like,
Yeah, it's just if there is more than 7 or more than 6 using the product, then the subscription we have is sufficient, but if there isn't.
if there is, I guess I wasn't saying very good. That's what I meant. If
Yeah.
we're not utilizing.
211, 510.
211, 510.
And yeah, I don't think 7 people are using.
510 I have
People are
as
using it,
penalties
but-
on taxes, last 3 digits for the.
211510.
So I guess I'm on it's in operating position, right? It said 2024, so the last 3 digits of that. She asked for these are GL numbers on this side, right?
Yeah, it starts with revenue and then you go into expenses.
Administrative revenue,
Council expenses, council,
211.
211, okay.
are you, council expenses?
So how many, do all counselors read it? I assume. It's just one then? Okay, and then how many in the admin? Just maybe one?
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable not really.
Okay.
I read it, but I,
Right.
and even if I did it, that, because it's not a general subscription for all, it would fall into the admin one if I decided to continue.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Mel?
So can I suggest then that we call the question on counseling?
Yep.
My motion and then make another motion.
Fit what needs.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of Mel's motion?
Aye.
None opposed, so carried, and then the new motion, Mel, Marianne?
I move that the town of Smoky Lake purchase 2 municipal world memberships subscriptions, one to be used and shared with administration and one to be used and shared with council. And there would be a $500, not part of my motion, but there'd be about a $400 savings.
I was gonna say cost.
Saving, yeah, from the 700.
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed, so carried.
Thank you.
All right, 3.5, town building insurance premiums. So this was just for information, more or less? Mary
There was a
Ellen?
request for it.
I'll put a motion on the table, but I do have some questions. So, make the motion that Town of Smoky Lake accept for information report regarding town-owned building insurance premiums for the year 2024 as presented. So, how often does insurance appraise the buildings? Are they doing this on an annual basis and then just coming back every few years? So like we have numbers for 2023, but what are the previous numbers for these buildings?
I would have to look back.
Okay, because I'm just curious whether the value of these buildings has increased or how much they've done that. We had a discussion on Northeast Municore, also with St. Paul. It had to do with the Heritage Water Tower that's at the end of Northeast Municore. The town was involved. They decided actually the insurance was so much for it, but they realized that the insurance would never would never cover the replacement of it. So I just wanted, is there, I got to thinking about with the CN station, not because I'm suddenly advocating that we don't have any insurance on the building, but is there like the Bartle cabin or something like that? These are just questions that I'm asking, are we paying too much insurance on buildings that we would never, if indeed they were to burn down or that we would not get,
Sorry,
be replaced?
Mel?
So it was a waste of insurance.
that, and I totally get where you're coming from.
Okay.
My concern would be the liability. Town-owned building, people, it's a
That's
liability.
the way that, and I've never been to Bartle Cabin,
Yeah.
like, so what is that?
No.
Yeah, actually, that's what made me think of it when you said Bartlett's
Yeah.
Cabin. So it is used by people and they're there on a regular basis, especially in the winter time. So yeah, I
This
think
liability.
liability, definitely having insurance and liability, plus that was a donated, you know,
Marianne?
place given. So yeah.
So, and thank you to Min for preparing this. My concern is that with the CN station, so line number 2 on page 20. So that was appraised at 2023, and then we all know it went through extensive renovations. And so I think maybe there would be value in having it reassessed because of the dollars that went into it. So the values how do I want to frame this? Are they the assessment summary values that are current?
That one could probably be updated, I agree.
Yeah.
We could ask them.
I'm very
Make sure
concerned,
that-
I'd rather pay more insurance on a premium than to be underinsured.
Yeah, because of the renos, that's not a bad idea for that.
Crystal, you had your hand up. You're good.
So I am surprised that we didn't have the assessment or the assessor come out and appraise a higher value, or maybe submit the photographs.
Evelyn?
No, Crystal's gonna answer that first. I'm
Oh.
just putting my hand in.
Normally what happens is if you're gonna do an upgrade to a building, you get a development permit. And those permits go to the assessor and then they assess and then reevaluate the property. So that's kind of like the full circle. So
And we said normally, so that is what
So-
happened, right?
I believe the CN station got a development permit. I can't hear you, sorry. I'm pretty sure the CN station got a development permit.
No?
What happened when I did renovation on our house, I had to get a permit, went to the assessor. Everything went up.
But that'll be evaluated in 2024 in 2025 tax year. And the next premiums. Should.
Evelyn?
And then it says new town office, so is that 2023? Is it the renovation? So what,
It's just always been listed as new town office since we got it.
It's just what we have in our
Yeah.
system. Yeah, that's this building.
But it's
Okay.
always said
So
new.
it's, the
When
last
I read-
appraisal was 2023.
that's what confused me, new town office, and I went, oh, so we're calling this all new and then.
No,
but
It's new when we bought
2023?
it.
That's
Okay.
just.
Yeah. I know it's weird.
It was new at the time that I was putting.
And pavilion is the Kinsman. And again, should that not be reassessed, because that's changed now with that investment that the Canets.
Next year it should show, it should reflect that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, so carried.
Amy, so then do you want a subsequent motion for the curling rink to be brought back to us with, or not the, the CN station?
I don't think so. I think it's like Crystal
Just
said,
wait
it's
till
automatically
20.
processed, but if they did not do a development permit, we'll make sure that it's submitted.
So no motion required then? Okay, thank you.
3.6 minimum tax rate. Mel?
I'd like to make a motion that the town of Smoky Lake approve the increase in the minimum tax rate from $600 to $800 effective for the 2025 tax year in reference to motion 655-2023 and motion 09-2024-C.
All in favor?
I,
Sorry, I meant to ask, is there any discussion? I obviously know it. Anybody want to discuss? I thought we discussed this at the.
It was a committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole, yeah. Okay, all in favor? Terry said aye earlier. I heard you, Terry.
Sorry, did you have discussion, Marion?
Oh, okay. Carrie, opposed? Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Marianne. Okay, we're good.
Just to make sure we had the
I
vote.
thought I got your hand up. Okay, sorry. Street sweeping costs.
I've already have been.
Mel,
Okay, so I have so many questions that are not gonna get answered today, I'm assuming, so I would just like to defer this. Because the cost is supposed to be $100 per hour. In 2020, we had 71 hours for 7,100. In 2024, we had 70.5 hours for $13,197. Clearly, it says in here you guys were following up on it. So that's my.
It's an area, they're fixing it.
Okay, that's my first question. My second question, or is a comment, which is what we're referring to earlier. That this money, both like, we were supposed to be putting away a certain amount of money for replacement. Clearly, we are not even close to enough for a replacement of a street sweeper, because what do they run, like 600,000 or
But they're
more?
putting money away as well, right? Like this is our contribution to
That's a total.
the town, though. This is what we pay towards it, but the county, when they use it.
No, 142,770 is the total
Oh, I see.
that has been put away for the street sweeper replacement. So,
No, it was purchased for that amount.
Oh, that was purchase.
sorry, where's the total?
61,
61, yeah, thousand.
Sorry, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so 140, that's what it's worth?
That's what it
Ish?
was for
Yeah, in 2000,
in
or that's,
2008.
and I mean, I know it's more now, but if we have 61, wouldn't the county have something similar and then the? Or is it, yeah, it's just the county and the town, right? No,
The street sweeper reserve, it says, is 61,000, because the repairs were taking out of it, that money that's been put away. So all that's in reserves right now to replace it is 61,000.
that you, and that's including the county.
What, it's the reserves, the county holds the reserves, so I'm assuming that is for every,
Oh. I
that's the
thought that was-
total amount. Is my assumption, that's how this is written,
Yeah,
right?
the revenue won't, the expenses are higher
Than
or
the-
just as much as the revenues, so there's not much getting put into the reserve.
Anyway, so that's a depressing thought, that's all we got. There's, really, it's except for information, and like, what are we gonna do? But
And so they're gonna fix the error and come back to us?
Yeah, yeah, we questioned why it was so high this year and what the agreement was. There's no agreement, there's no written. And, but it was an error. It was part of the, it's the grant, right? It was part of the grant, but it was, the agreement was $100 an hour. So then I questioned, but why? You know, I was told it was the operator expenses, but then they realized, oh, no, we don't normally charge that. It's just $100. I mean, and maybe it should be higher so that we're, both sides are putting more into reserves.
Marianne, so Dawn, thank you, you just said the magic words. Would it be the will of this council to enter into an agreement? And
No,
I don't know what the lifespan of this sweeper is, so I think we'd be wasting a little bit of time. I think we need an agreement, but I think that might be, I'd like to find out what the lifespan of this is, or when we need to replace it before we enter into an agreement, because you would probably have to change the costs, I'm assuming, so. I think I'd like to get that information first, like what the lifespan of this sweeper is. It's from 2008.
Yeah.
So
15 years old.
before we enter in any agreements.
Who pays the insurance? It comes out of the reserve.
County.
County does all, they're the managing partner.
Okay. Is it? Evelyn?
So when this $100, is it because they're not just gonna, out of the goodness of their heart, pay the insurance without getting something back? So is that part of the $100?
costs.
Oh, our
Maintenance
maintenance
and
reserves.
reserves here, but it's getting.
I think we get an agreement.
Just
It's too many unknowns.
No.
So I think so too. I just don't think we need to do it right now. I think there's motions for these, like this is done by motion. So I think it's okay, but I would like administration just to bring back like an update, a replacement, like I'm sure there's a plan somewhere, like a 10-year plan for
this-
replacement.
I think the second motion is good, because then it, and I've made note to meet with Kevin to discuss some options, and then we can come up with a plan, and then we'll bring it back.
So we'll need a motion just to accept the information and then a new motion to, or another motion to bring back. Put it all.
The option here, the second one covers, I think covers it.
Yeah.
I would like to move that the town of Smith Lake request administration to research the cost of a replacement street sweeper or a new street sweeper, new and used for cost comparison and provide the information at a future budget meeting. Sorry, didn't we?
Is that what we want? Yeah. But we wanted to add the light, like, I guess more, Mel, go ahead. Say it.
No, that'll cover, that'll cover, it'll.
On friendly amendment and
An update on.
an update on the, or to assess our current sweepers lifespan.
Mel.
Yeah, can I just suggest, for administration work with county administration too, because it's a joint thing, that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's good too.
Terry should be making
Marianne?
equipment motions.
Okay. To include county commission. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That carried. None opposed, carried. 3.8 agricultural society funding for the. Marianne?
Before the motion, I think I'm concerned, yes, this is a budget meeting, but I think I'd rather I don't want our admin to do a lot of work and come back and then I think we really, and we talked about this, we need the agreement first before we establish the current rate or an increase or, and based on Sharon's delegation presentation, I think that's what she was making reference to, because the Ag Society, they are planning for the next 5 years and they know where they're at. And then there's the possibility with the county, they have an increase of what we give and theirs is based on a grant funding. So I would like to see my opinion, I'd like to see the agreement first. So I'd like to defer this to a future budget meeting.
So,
Dawn?
and we had looked at it the other way, that so if we create a grant agreement and sign it, to then make a change, to then need to start over to make, to then update it. So we thought if we had all the facts, then we could create an agreement for the next 5 years or whatever, right? But we don't have all the details unless we're just continuing as is. And then the other one was, there was a motion about doing the in-kind work in return for facility use, but then, yeah, that one didn't really go anywhere. So then this delegation, and so we just need to know all the details. Like we can put all the details we currently have, but we just thought if we're gonna do an increase, we know what we pay, right? We pay 48,000 a year. If we're gonna increase it, then we would put that in the new agreement. Like we put all the motions that are in here into the new agreement, so.
And I
yeah.
thank you for all the background you did to do that. I just think that we've been operating without an agreement for a number of years. So let's have the agreement first to review with the current rate. And then see if, for budget purposes, if we're increasing that.
No?
So just to clarify, you're not saying to sign an agreement, you're saying for administration to provide a draft. Okay, and I'm okay with that, to bring that back, but I'd like to give some feedback of what I'd like to see in it so that, like, I'm not in favor of the Family Day, Canada Day trade. I like things a lot cleaner than that. So I'd like to see a number in there and very specific tasks if we're gonna do any for in-kind. And then anything over and above that would be a request from the Ag Society to come to council. Just so that it's very clean, not just in-kind work, but what very specific work we are willing to provide. And then the rest, if they have another ask, then that needs to come back here. So what I'd like to see in the agreement, the draft agreement is, I would like to see an increase. It's been a long time since we gave an increase, and I would like to see the snow removal included in it and crack filling, and that's it.
Evelyn?
So I think I'm on the same page with you because I don't like doing the whole in kind and so on, but to actually have an agreement, this is the money. And this is actually our responsibilities as a municipality looking after externally. Yeah, similar to what we have with the senior center as well too, where it's all about the internal versus the external, and I think we can, I'm a fan of that.
Thank you.
Dawn?
So, and one of our agenda items in the next meeting is to set a budget meeting. We won't be able to bring back. Like without knowing, if we had a guideline of, we're thinking this amount, let's start with this, nothing set in stone because it's just bring it here, but then we could put that number in our operating budget, so we have hopefully a balanced budget. Because ideally, here's a non-balanced budget where we're at, this is one of the factors we need to move forward with the operating budget. So once we have that, we can then bring back a balanced budget that's step one, not that you're necessarily gonna approve it, but if we don't even bring that to the next meeting. And I mean, we used to approve budgets in what, April, March, May. So we're still ahead of the game, but last year we approved here, right? So we're a little bit behind, but that's fine. There's nothing that says we have to do that. We did the interim, but it would be nice to have kind of a guideline on what you're thinking, and that can still change, but that would allow us to bring back a more balanced budget for the next budget meeting, ideally.
No?
So sorry, I was gonna get to that. I just wanted an outline, like I'd like to see us talk about the number and what we want in it, and then I agree with Marianne, that you can bring it back at the budget meeting and bring back like a draft thing to present, agreement to present to the Ag Society, but I'd like to get those numbers down and what the in-kind work would be so that they can actually do their work without guessing what we want. So I guess what I was hoping is that we could agree on a number to put in.
Okay, Marianne, that's fair, and thank you. And I would support that. I would not support an increase at this time. For number one, Sharon did not ask for an increase. And number two, the county made reference in Sharon's presentation. She made reference that the county gives the money, not out of their budget, but out of a grant. So would we have the same opportunity as the town to apply for whether it's a recreational grant or anything? I would support a motion with the existing amount of $4,000.
Crystal?
If the county's money comes out of like an MSI operating, or LGFF operating, that's the grant that they pay for their portion of the Ag Society.
No?
Yeah, and honestly, like where the county takes their money out of their budget, I don't, like, that doesn't really affect us. And I think Sharon did ask for an increase. I think she was here to explain to every, like, because she hadn't been here with this new council, you know, and so she could understand. She said during the thing that, of course, they would like an increase. I just think that if we have a clean, like Evelyn said, what's clearly lined out, then it'll eliminate the one-offs a lot. Which also, if we give an increase, then we have no surprises, because we're gonna get the one-offs, right? Like, I need this, I need that, you know, the things that they can't afford. And I think, so and I'm not suggesting like a huge increase, but I thought we could, my number was going to be like 52.
Yeah, I was thinking, Marianne?
Okay, and so thank you for saying that. I did not know. Crystal, thank you for clarifying where the county comes from. I don't know where ours comes from. That's not the point. But I took it as Sharon came, we didn't have a funding agreement in place. We had nothing signed. So we were just, our process was to, every month we did that. So it's, in terms of governance, we need an agreement. We identified and we agreed. The number, I could get on board with that. What I heard is Sharon said they could sustain themselves for the next 5 years. But of course, this is a building in our community that is a huge contributor, economic drivers and having people come to our communities, so of course I would support the increase. I would still want to have the draft agreement first.
Sure. But then, thank you, and then we can put that in there, and again, it's still open to feedback, right? It's not approved, it's just, yeah, thank you. And then it helps us draft an operating budget.
If we increased it to 4,250, just because it makes an even number, it would be 51,000 a year. Because we pay monthly, right?
You didn't say that right. Do it again.
4,250.
Okay. I
We
would like,
pay 48,000 a year.
she's talking about the month, 4,000.
Yeah, I don't know, so I was trying to figure, because 4,500 is 52, or not 52, 54,000 a year.
That.
I
Yeah.
would support that, but I still
If you
think.
just give us an annual number, we can figure out.
Okay,
monthly.
54,000, I know, but I was just trying to think, like, because if you gave you like a weird number, it'd be like.
I had
doesn't matter.
suggested, yeah.
That doesn't matter, I guess.
Suggested 52 to add in there.
But I still think that we need to support the in-kind with the snow removal.
Oh, yeah, it's already
Yeah.
in, I agree.
Yeah.
No,
Which is why it should remain at 48,000 and then bring the value back of the. Like, again, this is where we get into the messiness of the in-kind, because the in-kind has a value to it. This
But it's
work, we're not
always
just
been-
doing it out of the art. So. It should. Those are the numbers that also need to come back along with.
Mel?
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. There's a value to it, for sure. There is a value to the in-kind work, which I think we had brought back the $500 for those crack fillings for this last year. I don't remember the snow removal costs, unfortunately, on the top of my head. But those are about the two things like that the town, like the county does in-kind work as well. They supply gravel for the RV park, they supply wood for the RV park, they trim the trees. A lot of time at the RV park, they were growing and stuff like that. So they also, and that's on a one-off basis. I was just trying to eliminate the one-offs, like the requests, and just go to the 52,000 snow removal crack filling. And those are very, those are things that the society wouldn't have the ability
And we've done
to
them
do
forever.
anyways, so.
Marianne?
And to add to that, I agree, and I would support that motion because a rental is a rental. They need the revenue. When you rent out the building and whether it is Canada Day or that, I don't know if it's a nice thought behind that, but I think to keep it clean, as you said, we would pay for the rentals. We do in other facilities as
Yeah.
well.
Donna?
We should rescind that motion if councils change their mind on that.
What motion?
Yeah,
There's a motion to, for the in-kind, that we would do the in-kind in return for free rentals on Canada Day.
No?
no, I can go ahead.
So when you say, in good catch, we do need to rescind that motion, correct? I'm all on board. with this. Like, so, but you want to do that now or can that wait until January?
We'll include it, that's a good point. We'll include it in the report in
Please,
January
yeah,
with.
let's do it all in one.
I just wanted to make one more comment about, because I wasn't in love with that before. My issue with it is there's lots of people that rent the facility that do things for the community. And so it heads down a very slippery slope. And when it came up in an FCSS meeting and somebody else who was on a different board was like, oh, well, you were there, right? They were like, oh, well, you can do that for our hall. Like it opens up
Set a precedence.
very bad doors. So I appreciate I appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and make this motion if you guys are comfortable with it. I'd like to make the motion that the town of Smoky Lake increase the annual funding contribution for the operating costs to the Agricultural Society for the Ag Complex located at 4612 54th Avenue, Smoky Lake in the town. Smoky Lake in the amount of
Are you doing 52 or 54?
$4,000 for a total amount of $52,000 per year. and increase and request administration to draft a funding agreement with the Ag Society in response to the delegation from the president of the Ag Society dated October 21st and 24th, and include in the funding agreement the in-kind work of snow removal of the parking lot, as well as yearly crack filling.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so carried. 3.9 positions and healthcare professionals community budget request, 2025 budget. No,
I just had a quick question. What is the budget? I gotta get to it. Sorry, what's the budget to? 40. 40, thank you, Mary Ann. That's the budget breakdown, but what is currently in the budget for, like, the financial? Right. There's about 40,000. There's about around that.
hold on the other minutes.
I think Crystal's looking at.
Sorry, my-
Yeah, Crystal has an answer.
Oh. Oh,
Is this similar to RCDC where you're just earmarking it and then, or is it an actual physical transfer into a budget for?
So this one, we have a separate bank account for physician and healthcare. There's two accounts, one's retention and one's recruitment. And the money goes into there, so any interest that's built is acquired through there. And then I'll let Crystal speak to the amounts in there, but I also wanted to point out the county did pass to approve their budget, but not to be handed over to the physician and healthcare committee until the reserves are. It says withhold release of funds in the amount of $14,640 to the managing partner, Town of Smoky Lake, until the committee's surplus has been diminished. Now, I don't know if they realize that it is a separate account and they're thinking we'd be acquiring or just on principle, whichever it is, just so you know what they chose to do. Not that we need to do that, but I'm just pointing it out.
Or Crystal, or is it related?
It's related to what Dawn said, thank you. So Dawn, thank you for reading that motion. When is that, or where is it from?
The council meeting on December 12th, they emailed us.
Thank you.
Did you read the RFD to see the reasoning behind it?
It wasn't the recommended motion, it was added. When I couldn't get onto their agenda, it wasn't working, so when I got this, I couldn't get it, but I did see. I'm sure I saw the recommended motion afterwards, I'd have to double check, I think it's there now, but yeah, I'm not sure where it came from and I wasn't listening, so. I'm not sure if you were, you know, and again, I didn't, the one thing that popped in my head was I wonder if they realize it's a separate account because the reps on that committee are new. So maybe they don't know that it's a separate account and they thought, well, why would the town get the interest? But it's the healthcare committee. So just so you guys, but I just want to make sure the town was aware of how they adapt the motion. I can see what they have in there. I think it's up.
Crystal?
So the retention budget is at 40,000, but that's not including our cost of the Christmas gift baskets.
No?
And cost.
I would be in favor of the recommendation. And that's strictly because usually actually the doctor improvement and retention has more money than $40,000 in it. It costs quite a bit of money. Sorry, this is just
retention.
Oh, this is just retention.
You want to know what the recruitment is?
Sorry, I would, yeah, I wasn't clear on that. I was thinking that was combined and I was like, ooh,
No, there's two separate.
So retention is 40,000
yes.
and the other,
Just have to log in.
Okay, sorry.
is that just sitting in a savings account? We're not doing anything else with the money, like putting a 4-month GIC?
Not as requested, no.
There was it that one where there was discussion around it, but then we were advised that I don't remember which committee that, oh no, that was MCC.
The
And then
mush.
the comment that was
provided.
made was that, we wouldn't make any more on that one for some
Yeah.
reason. So any, that was a different one.
Had to be
It's all
over a
good,
certain
it's all good, yeah.
Crystal?
So the recruitment budget or bank account is at $55,272.96. And the retention total is $40,057.29.
No?
Okay, so in that case, I'm not, in that case, I would say follow suit, to make it clean with what the county did. Because if they're just going to, we're gonna put the money in, and they're gonna not put the money in, and then,
The only thing is there's two others too. There's Vilna and Wasetna. And,
oh, we don't know what they're doing.
no, and I'm not sure why we would change. I know what you're saying, but I'm saying like, Marianne,
To me, it was very clear when Dawn read the motion that that was not the procedure to follow based on how the committee set up and then in terms of the bank account, maybe they just weren't aware.
Dawn.
The recommended motion did not include the withholding the funds. It was just to pay it, so I just pulled it off the county's agenda.
No.
So must have been discussion during the meeting or comment from a member.
Sorry.
So, no, I just
No,
looked
it
it
was
up.
added.
Sorry, Marianne. I just looked it up. I didn't know for sure.
No?
Why does this have to be so difficult?
There's the.
Just make our
When
motion
our
as,
funds are depleted. Oh, yeah.
okay,
Evelyn?
So I'm gonna say that we're gonna go ahead and do this, because I suspect Vilna and Wasetna are just gonna go ahead and do
Right.
it. And that this is something that, again, I think it comes down to, we believe that somebody has made this motion based on a misunderstanding. So you're gonna put it, you'll push back or ask,
a
do we, like, what? Do I have to make a motion that way? I'm just gonna, I think we're just, okay. I'm gonna
Make the next one.
I'm gonna make a motion. That Town of Smoky Lake adopt the year 2025 retention budget for the Smoky Lake Region's Physicians and Healthcare Professionals Committee with the Town of Smoky Lake's contribution in the amount of $6,240 based on 26% of the total budget in the amount of $24,000 in reference to the Physicians and Healthcare Committee meeting held on November 21st, 2024, motion number 65-2024.
Okay, so I'll call the question out. All in favor? Carried. Or no opposed, so carried. All right, Mel.
I'd like to make a motion for administration to reach out to the county. Just inquiring as to the holdback of funds for the recruitment and just to explain how it goes into a separate bank account that acquires. Yeah, so the other municipalities' money is all going in there to acquire interest for that purpose.
Okay, all in favor? Are you opposed?
No, I'm not, I'm in favor, but I was gonna ask you, man, we have a 2 minute break.
Okay, I'll just finish and then
Okay.
none opposed, so carried. That's all I was trying to.
Sorry.
I was like, did I forget you? Okay, yeah, we can have 2 minutes. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order at 11:08. And we will move to 3.10 draft 2025 operating budget.
Don't you start with the cost? Sure.
So as I mentioned, we're not bringing forward a balanced budget at this point. We just have too many unknowns still. So we've included, you'll see the additions there that were included, including elections and the increases. The intern, we did present at the last meeting that there was an additional cost for this year, but what we actually found is it actually breaks even this year. So there's no cost out of pocket. I think it's $200 out of pocket for the town to continue to employ the intern. Once Crystal redid the math on this year versus next year. And then right now, regional fire, just for funding the increases, and they're higher than so initially I had reported about 38,000. What I didn't keep in mind is some of the salaries that are allocated to that GL will no longer be allocated there, but they still have to be paid, right? Our salaries, like some of the administration was allocated to fire for admin support, and then the utilities on those buildings, we're leasing out those buildings, but we still need to pay the utilities, so those costs didn't go away. So our budget, our increase right now is about 43,000. One comment I have to that is it's a lot of, like, and for the town, that's a 4.1% increase. One thought I had is if we did want to push back on this a little bit is we could request just to reduce the budget for not just us, but the county and the villages. Is the idea to ICC, which is this week, of hiring one full-time firefighter this year, continue with the wildland crew for the summer months, and then look at adding that second one next year, so the increase isn't all in 1 year. Just a comment to this committee or this to council, if you want to recommend that to the ICC committee. It was one thought I had where that's about $100,000 savings around that if you include salary plus benefits. So that would reduce this by about 15,000 for the town. So that was one thought I had on savings. And then now we have the Ag Society, that's a $4,000 increase. We're removing most of the, although you already did that, I think in the budget, didn't you? It's already out of there. Lagoon cleaning is about up to $70,000. We didn't use 20 this year that we budgeted, so that amount was not accurate. So there'll be addition there. Iron Horse, trail staging area, that's subject to a grant, but they did apply for an ACP grant. If that one's received, then we won't need this amount, but if they don't get this one, they're still applying for the other one, so that one might go away. Wayfinding, we had budgeted for a bunch of signs this year. The council had said they wanted a wayfinding plan. We did not include that in the budget yet, so that's $10,000, and that doesn't include the cost of the signs that would have to be put back in. The house on Willow Creek Street, we might be able to apply that, but even if we do apply it to taxes, it's still out of pocket for this year, $6,500. But again, if we then buy that lot, then we should make some of that back with the HAF grant. And then decreased grants to individuals and organizations was one thing Crystal adjusted. Crystal goes in really thoroughly and compares to not just last year, but the last few years to make sure that our numbers are in line. So because we made a few less donations last year, that budget line's been reduced at this point, just to try to have a savings. So, and then there's some there that these are the ones that'll be determined later in the year. Again, fire, we don't know the final number. Insurance premiums can change. WCB premiums and just your requisitions for your school. Yeah. Do you have anything more with that? And then we had a couple ideas in there for increasing revenues. It's not a lot, but right now we pay a lot to send out the water bills. So to charge that, what's the other one I brought up? Oh, we could increase we already did increase, but the tax certificates, we charge $50. I know in one of my municipalities, we literally doubled that to 100 because the only time you do it is when you're selling a house and it's all wrapped into the lawyer fees, and it's kind of an easy, low hanging fruit. Like those were just a couple of the little ones that we kind of looked at. We also started talking about things like, we're not there yet, but I was talking to the county to say, other regional service delivery options, like IT, we're paying quite a bit for IT. I wouldn't want to just get rid of that because it's our security, and the last thing we want is to not be secured and somebody to hack into our system, right? But are there other options there that could be less, like if the county expanded their IT department, is there potential that we could literally hire them where it's not just contracting, there's a certain number of hours that they work under the town. And there's a few different areas that we think there's some potential for the future, like we're gonna do the peace officer, but maybe, down the road is IT one of those areas that we could do. There's a few different areas that we considered that for the future, but we're, just starting those conversations. So I think it's a smart way to look at things. And Crystal, do you have anything to add that I didn't uncover there? So that's kind of where we're at. And again, preliminary numbers, not a huge amount of cushioning though, so it'll be the same where, the advantage of cushioning, the disadvantage of cushioning is you don't want it inflated too high because then it's not actuals. The disadvantage is you have less going into your reserves, your surplus, your acquired surplus annually. Sorry, my mind is just not working for some reason when I'm grasping at words here. So there is that, but it does reflect a more accurate what we actually spend year to year.
Mel?
Okay, so just going through there, I love the fire idea about starting with the one employee. If, I'm not sure what the appetite is for the rest of the committee and the ICC, or if you think that there'd be a buy-in from the other partners on the one firefighter and keeping the, Evelyn, you're shaking your head, you don't think there's a buy-in? Okay, I'll just finish up that. So I do like that idea, instead of jumping into a huge increase, our first year. And then I would like to see some sort of budget for reserves. Yes, there's a question mark there. I don't know what that looks like. I guess it would be something that you guys would have to present once we get all the numbers and see where we're
We
at.
had been putting a little bit into reserves, and I think he kind of got rid of that to try to cover the deficit.
So there's, and then, so the lagoon cleaning, we still have the $20,000 from last year, so you're projecting $50,000 budget for this year? Or
There's some, yes, potentially, because we don't wanna, we're hoping that there's a more efficient way, there's some drying potential, the way we've done it previously.
Mhm.
We just need to make sure that that's still approved by Alberta Environment, so John was looking into that. What we got was 70,000, but hopefully we can use that.
Okay, and the other one I have is the wayfinding plan. That's good, but then we have the Pumpkin Park signage.
Yes.
So can we not have the wayfinding plan first before we have the Pumpkin Park signage so that everything looks the same? Like, I know we want to have the sign at the Pumpkin Park, but I don't want to have that look like one thing and then we do the wayfinding. And plan on the signs and then it's not, it was a motion, but I just thought maybe we could remove that.
I agree.
And do the wayfinding so they all are the same, so that would be removing the $2,000 out of that. The budget for the food and beverage, or not food, but beverage for the council chambers, I like to be able to offer our guests something to drink, so it was $182 last year. So I think that we should put the water and that back into the budget where we don't do big meals, or we save a lot of costs in the council chambers that way, so I think we should include that. And my last comment is it would be awesome if what Evelyn was talking about earlier, I just want to piggyback on it, the demo of the tax recovery house, and if we're able to use the half grant to recoup that cost, then that's $6,500. We do need to find some ways to cut a little bit, I think would be, and that's only because I would like to put money in reserves. No, that's where I'm sitting. I don't know, we disagreed on the fire part, Evelyn, so, and you can probably explain that a little bit better to me, but that's where my head is at.
Okay. I just had a comment about the fire. I think it could go either way, because I know sometimes, I know the other, like the smaller municipalities would be opposed to it. I think as long as it's in the plan, and I mean, it probably wouldn't be unreasonable to say for the next year, but, and it probably is gonna take a little bit of time anyways to get that all rolling, so it might fall into there.
Maybe one more comment.
No.
My other thing is it won't be a whole year's worth of wage either, right?
Yeah.
Because they were not gonna have this going on January 1st.
Yeah.
So that number is probably based on a full year.
But we removed all our other expenses, so it should, some of it'll balance out a little
Yeah.
bit, but yes.
So,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
yeah, anybody other thoughts on the
Yeah,
fire?
and what were your thoughts about the?
So
fire?
in regard to fire, it already actually has been recommended as well that it's actually 3 full-time firefighters, because in order for those because the ratio actually is 1.2, 1.5, how is it that you figure it out? But you need actually the third to cover off for the other 2 for when they have vacation time and days off and so on. I'm for the 2, we're not, so not the third person, I think that one's coming down. And I see, I understand. I know that you said this already years ago, that when we talked about it at the beginning of regionalization. But where we are in the process, it is two. And I really do believe in the two and that we need the two. So I don't see that as a cost to suddenly start doing that here. I'm not a big fan of. When it also election costs $8,000, that's an increase of $2,000 over 2021, which also was increased over 2017, back on January 23rd, 2023 at that meeting. We had those amounts presented to us. And could we get a line by line of the election? Because food was included in 2021. I worked in election for the county and we did not get food. So when I see that included for 2021, which wasn't in 2017, and when we're talking about an election budget for 8,000, I actually would like to see, instead of just approving a generic amount, I'd like to actually see what the budget is, because I'm not going to support $8,000 to buy food.
There was minimal food costs, like, you just sent me a breakdown. Because we were talking about it, we contract some staffing for it as well, and then facilities that we rent as well as ballots, but yeah, we can get you, we can, for the next budget meeting. Break down the food and costs.
Yeah.
No, and this doesn't include a returning officer either. No?
I just wanted to go back to
They were
the.
deferring the second one, not.
No, I wanted to go back and just ask. So when the talk on the 2 to the 3 firefighters, I'm just wrapping my head around it. So you don't think there would be, I just wanted to get a firm, you don't think there would be an appetite to discuss the one? Right? That's what you're suggesting? Okay, I just wanted to see, because I understand like covering for people off and stuff, but we do have volunteer firefighters as well. Volunteer firefighters as well, right? So, I don't know, I'd still like to have that conversation, I guess, to see what it is, what the appetite would be, and then if it isn't.
So are we having two different conversations here where?
I'm suggesting at the
We're talking
ICP.
about specifically about one firefighter versus two, rather than talking about like, is it the money? So, because that's where you're pinpointing, like, if you're looking for a cut to the budget or to the money, then we should take a look at everything that's in it and see where it is. Or is the sticking point the second full-time firefighter?
So I think what the sticking point for me was the first year, second paid firefighter.
Say again?
So in our first year, the need for a second paid firefighter versus, I'm not disagreeing that. I just don't know if we need it for the first year. But again, I'm not in these talks, and that's why I'm asking this question and what it would look like. I don't want to pretend like I know the ins and outs. I would like to, like, obviously, we're gonna see the whole picture eventually. I just would hate to get there. It's a big increase. 4.1% is like a lot. So I guess the question is the money and the need in the very first year for 2 paid. So the need is my questions.
Oh, and that's what I meant by deferring the hiring of the second position.
I believe them. I
Yeah.
believe that in the plan that there's gonna be 2, and I believe that. I guess my question is the need in year 1. That's all. So, and how, like, by what time? Like, is it gonna be June? It's gonna be August? Like, what, I'm hoping it's gonna be like March, but that's all I'm at. But that's not something that can be answered. I was just having it out there for maybe the discussion during the ICC meeting, that's all. And not a firm, not a total opposed, just a question on the need for it, that's all. It's the only thing I want to go back to. I'm done.
Marianne?
So, going back to the fire, so was it yourself, Amy, or Dawn that said the increase impacts it by $15,000? The difference between 1 or 2, or?
So with a very rough high-end estimate of a full-time firefighter, including benefits costing $100,000. Our percentage of that is 15%. So the reduction in that 41, sorry, my computer's restarting on me.
Sorry.
41, no, it wasn't your fault. I was trying to shut down my camera because it wasn't on and it shouldn't have been. 41,000 would reduce that number by 15,000. So the reason I thought that might be an option is again, to ramp it up, because it's still better than what we're doing. But they did still include the number for the wildland fire units. So basically, in the summer months, during wildland fire season, there's paid on call people being at the hall like last year still. So we will have those plus the one, plus the chief and deputy chief. I just thought it's still better than what we have currently. Maybe it's a way to ease it in the budget for us and the villages in the county. It was just a thought. If you don't like it, I mean, I just thought it was one area when we were brainstorming how to reduce this year's operating,
And
that's
don't
all.
get me wrong, I don't sit on that committee, so I don't know, so thank you for explaining that. My other concern is, okay, so what I hear being said at this level is that we're being presented the budget on page 44 and what I'm hearing is based on your hard work, Crystal and yourself, that there's no other outlets, opportunities to trim.
I mean, there's always areas when we bring the next budget back, with that, we should have more firm numbers and say, this is going to be the tax increase. And I really want it separated by, this is the increase and then this is fire, because I think it's important to promote to the municipality that, you know, this percentage increase is to keep the municipality safe. Right? We need wildland fires. We all saw what happened in Jasper. So I do think that it's important that the residents don't just see a random number in there and go, oh my gosh, how did our taxes go up so high, right? But if we bring that budget and council says, this is too high of a tax increase, we need you to come back with some reductions, which would include service levels, and bring back some options to the next council meeting. And then we would come back with, here's some different areas. But it would be cutting service levels. It's potentially cutting. Yeah.
Marianne, so, okay, and thank you, Dawn. I don't know, I just want to position this and with our time and everything, I don't know if it's fair at this time, but when I look at, say, for example, I look at the previous line by line in 2024 and I see that there was under the admin expenses, there might be some unused funding. So would we not want to lower our admin expenses? We're showing an increase quite substantial of 20,000, well, under about $20,000. So say, for example,
I
I'm
don't have the
looking,
line by line in front of me.
yeah, sorry. Just one that kind of pops out is we have a line by line called promotion and public relations. We budgeted a certain amount and we're under. And so wait till 5/1. But then how does it work for 2025? How much is public relations in this one? Maybe we can trim that promotions.
And that's the challenge when we get into line by line. It really gets into the weeds, like we're trying to create a very, and I'm not saying don't ask questions, you're allowed, but if we go line by line and we're like,
You want apples to apples?
you know, we've made adjustments and I can look it up on our line by line, so that one's donations to,
The grants to individuals.
Yeah.
and
The one that
organizations.
Marianne's referring to, there is still gonna be costs going in.
yeah,
to
we're
there
not
for
done,
Christmas.
right?
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so
Let's go at
Okay.
5.1.
Okay, sure, I can wait.
and then there's other things that we talked about doing, like I asked Crystal for a breakdown of costs with regarding to like training and things like that, so that we could actually come up with an actual plan and budget for that rather than just having, because I still think that that number is a little high. And some of our municipal memberships, we had a few extras in there where can we get best value from, and the ones that we're not, we're eliminating to reduce that number. So I've asked for that so we can actually come up with, you know, what memberships do we need? Which ones are effective? Which ones do we have but we really don't use? so we can reduce that. What training and conferences are we planning on sending staff to next year? And actually coming up with that list. Just so that we're able to justify,
More accurate. Yeah.
internally here, what is the number that should be there?
Speaking as the Northeast Community Corps Director, the two items on here, $10,000 for cedar trees. Because again, how are those you're not in favor of those trees that
Yeah.
Northeast Community Corps can get for free?
We can use them, and I'm hoping to remove that number out of there entirely. There's
Okay.
also a grant called Tremendous Grants that I wanna look into. The issue with the ones that we can get for free is they're very small.
Okay.
So they're not going to do anything for many, many years. My thought was if I can get the tremendous, because we talked about doing the entire length if we could eventually. So the thought I had is if I could get this tremendous grant, and position them, right? And then we get funding from, from that grant to go in between them, I think then you could fill. But if we just put in, because, I forget how much, they were like dollars, they were very small trees. $5 a tree, I think, was it? I can double check the email. But my concern was if we put those in, how many do you lose? Because they're so small, right? When you go that small. And then again, they're not going to provide any dust control or any light control for many, many years. But again, if I can partner that one with a different grant, or even if I can't get the other grant, if I could spend less and do those in between, that was my thought. So I'm hoping to reduce or eliminate that number.
Okay, so if I may, so these people on the MPC, did they indicate that when they got, make it mandatory that the trees had to be a certain height or had to be grown a certain way? Because when I'm actually okay with small trees being planted there, knowing that it's going to take a while.
This person on the NBC,
okay.
it was, I believe, I don't really, I can't say the exact wording, but I think the purpose of the trees is in there and that wouldn't fulfill the purpose of them. So I don't think it was specified height or measurements or what type, but it was specified the purpose of them. So it would not be, it wouldn't live up to the purpose.
The
of it.
development permit, it wouldn't,
Yeah.
and it's $5 a tree.
Was there not a fence that was also?
Yeah.
So, you see, that's what I'm saying, if you're gonna put up a fence and trees. The fence is going up, it allows time for those trees to grow.
But again, I agree with Mel, I think we'd have, because the development permit said the town will put in trees for dust control and light, like, I think it's worded that way, so if somebody could challenge that doesn't meet the development. But we can double check that.
That guy.
Yeah, so looking into other grant funding, so I'm hoping that,
Okay,
yeah.
so again, there's that, and then, we originally approved a motion for 15,000. And then that's when Mary Ann Jenke contacted you and said, actually, Town of Smithland, and remember, I was going, I hate taking money out of reserves, I don't want to take this 1,500 out of reserves for this. So I'm happy in a way that we didn't have to go, because there's our reserve money right there, Counselor Morton.
Love it.
So, but now that they've got this grant, when does this ACP grant, and I should know that, but I don't.
Next year.
What time, October? Is it,
Is there an earlier one? There's only one, isn't there? Yeah, I think they're planning on applying for next year's, because they didn't apply for this year's, I believe.
so does that not mean that the $15,000 can be added to the 2026 budget? Because if we won't, we're not gonna be doing anything until we know if that grant comes back. And if that grant's not gonna come back until October, see? I'm getting 2 thumbs up over here. Then why add this when we probably won't be? It's actually, if anything, you should, it's something to put it, remove it.
Currently in the budget. It's under the list of not currently in the budget,
Oh,
the 15,000. It's not there.
So you're saying you remove this?
Yes.
items to discuss.
All right, so that's already taken care of,
Yeah.
because we don't need to do it. All right, moot point.
Well, so since we're gonna do the line by line, in 5.1, just to move this along, under the items not currently in the budget. Can I say we're putting the anxiety increase in there? We're putting municipal world, but at a much lower number. Beverage and food, or for the chambers, if we put in at 250. Lagoon cleaning, we know what that, we just have to do it, so it's what it is. Remove the Iron Horse staging. Put the wayfinding in. Put the tax recovery house in, but hope that we can save there with the half fund. And Crystal's did a more accurate for the grants to individuals. The other thing, though, I wanted to remove that are already in the budget would be the Pumpkin Park sign.
Yeah.
If we could remove that until the wayfinding is done. And that was the only thing I had. I just wanted to see if council agreed with that list after the discussion. Did that seem like everybody was comfortable with that?
I would have loved to cross the table at you if you took Willow Creek off.
It's in there, but potential for less.
Fight Club.
Yeah, I think Evelyn should go plant trees this spring. Mullins. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay, did you get all that, Carly? Cause I'll make a motion. Crystal got it, okay. I'm gonna make a motion that the Town of Smoky Lake Administration update the draft 2025 operating budget as discussed.
All in favor? And that'll be carried. Unopposed or carried. All right, I want to discuss lunch because we have staff here that might want to eat. We've been here since 9. Are we stopping at 12 regardless of where we're at with line by line? Okay, all right.
Yep.
So we'll move to 5.1, or no, sorry, 4.1. Sorry, public engagement for budget 2025.
Sure.
We haven't done this previously for budget. I just wanted to, I did ask last year and it was accepted for information, so I just wanted to bring it forward for consideration. The county did do theirs. I didn't listen to it, but they did do theirs virtually was an option. So just not sure if you want to do something in general.
I'm in favor of that, advertising our budget meeting and having it virtual option. And
They did an open house,
sorry,
is what the county did.
They just had.
Yeah.
I thought it was in there after, or maybe it was the same day as the regular
Yes.
meeting. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I was like.
Marianne?
I almost feel that we should defer this until the new year because we have another budget meeting to go to and setting a date now is pointless.
Well, yeah.
In terms of,
No, my only comment is, if you want to, normally you do it to get input before we finalize everything, but when you're well in, especially a lot around capital is tends to be your, and then again, but I don't disagree with you because if we had a general idea of what the overall tax increase was, that we could promote that yes, our tax is going up this much, but this is the value you're getting.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad idea,
so we'll know March what our assessment is, right? So
except we did start approving budget earlier last year. But if you want to go back to March, April, that's okay. Everyone was supportive of approving a December budget last year. We're obviously not there this year. But if you're okay going back to later, that's fine.
I am, and from what I hear from admin, there's a lot of people's fights right now, and I think I don't, with scheduling, I don't want to overburden our team, right?
Thank you.
To defer till after our next budget meeting? Or defer this to our next budget meeting? Defer to. Yeah,
I'm hoping to make that motion and get support from council, so I move that, if I may, I move that the town of Smoky Lake defer the virtual or open house public engagement session for the purpose of the 2025 budget to a future budget meeting to be determined by that date.
All in favor? And then opposed, so carried. All right, we'll move to 5.1. Line by line discussion, I guess. Evelyn?
In a way, we already had the discussion about this already, right? Can we make a motion? I'll put a motion on the table.
But I thought you had some questions about some, I don't know how you worded
Yeah,
it.
and nobody else has it in front of them, right? The line by line for 2024.
I have it on my computer.
Does anybody else want to copy it?
No, I have it. Oh, okay.
Okay, so. Rogers Tower, under general revenue, 560. We have lease revenue that was included in the budget that didn't come to fruition. So there's $15,000 in the budget that. So what are we planning to? So yes, that's 2024.
Anything that is unspent in here just goes into unrestricted reserves. Got the right account. I did reach out to them on the Rogers Tower recently and asked where are we at, and there was no update yet, but it's not gone away, so I'm still not clear on whether we should be budgeting, if it's actually going to happen or not. I sent an email on November 8th. And he said, I'm not actively coordinating that group at this point, and reached out to somebody else to follow up with me, and I have not got an update.
At
So,
the time, it sounded like it was.
Yeah. I mean, they've done all the steps, like there's been multiple things happening over the last year, but it's been very quiet the last couple months. So I think it's still in the radar. So we'll get some updates on that, hopefully, so that we know if, do we keep the 15,000 in there? We've got the agreement, we're ready to go. But it didn't happen this year. So it's just we won't get the revenues this year. Sorry, that's opposite though, because it's not
Yeah.
money not spent, it's money not received. So that means we're gonna have that deficit in there, right? So yeah, so unfortunately it didn't I don't know if they're waiting for federal approvals. I know there's a lot of steps for Rogers Tower, so it has been. So we won't get those revenues this year.
Miriam?
Thanks, Dawn. So my question is in that category as well, the two lines above, and this is good news. We had budgeted for return on our investments 36,000, and we've gotten almost double that amount, or yeah, double. So can you explain what the increase is, the 71?
Crystal? The interest rate definitely helped us this year, so that is a big portion of that.
So return on investments,
Okay.
and it's in 550.
Thank you.
It's interest. Yeah.
Higher interest than anticipated.
COVID did a number to us previous years with the interest rates.
Thank you. So if I could go on, Amy, when we go down, further down on that page, the administration revenue, we budgeted in under 850 for MSI operating. Is that correct? The 70%?
Yeah, that's usually a year-end adjustment that I do. There's 132,000 that we have received that isn't reflected in our revenues in this report.
Yeah, the LGFF operating increased for us.
Yeah. So we did receive the money, it's just sitting in a receivable, it's not put into the revenue yet.
It goes in at year
It's
end.
a year-end adjustment to fund the operating.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
So that, that
increases 100.
increases, yeah.
A year-end, it'll have a nice number to get.
It's 60,000 more than was budgeted. That's the thing with budgets, right? They do
Yeah.
fluctuate.
And it's, like you said, it's hard because we don't have the grant report, like even for the housing grant, even though it's revenue, it's not really revenue, right? It's a grant.
And that was, not in the operating.
And if I can backtrack, I forgot, I went right to right to that line. We just passed a minimum tax levy, so we just increased it by 200. So our last increase, was that not accounted in the budget? Cause it was 2024 budget was 34,000, but we actually collected 6,000 more, or was that
What line?
minimum levy, 102, it's second from the under tax revenue, 100 and then 102, minimum tax levy. We were budgeted for 34.
Yeah.
But we were 6.
Good news, yeah.
Yep, it increased. Just. It's
Like the
a-
minimum tax levy is a set amount, so should it not be even? Like, so,
That would be a Tamara question if she.
Tamara?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to say with the assessment and then like it's hard for her to know.
If assessments change and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But that's the minimum tax levy.
But if there's another property that falls into that didn't previously, then that's gonna make changes, right? So Mhm. It's an estimate.
That's good news.
Evelyn?
Then fireworks, 5,000 under fireworks donations for 2024. That 5,000, what is that?
The fire department does fundraising and they give us $5,000 and we budget 10,000. So the difference of that is the town donates $5,000 worth of fireworks because the fire department fundraises for the 5,000. Because it's to offset our budget.
So that's why we make money on fireworks, is the
Okay,
fire
so
department's
We
fundraising.
budgeted 5,000, but didn't actually need to use the,
No, we did, yeah. Yeah, we budget our expense at 10,000 for fireworks and we get a revenue of 5,000.
okay. Except, so that's gonna be reflected, because the actual is 0. There's budget and then actual is 0.
And the fireworks.
Fireworks donations.
I think you're looking at the revenue. So we get 5,000
That is the
revenue,
revenue,
yeah, so it won't reflect.
Oh, no, that's,
But it's not
yeah,
the actual.
It
0.
should be an expense.
so we just haven't received it yet.
You sorry?
So we just haven't received it yet.
I'm saying like it's
Yeah, yeah,
0.
Because that would have been for,
Yeah.
Like winter,
It's
it's
right?
assumed we'll get it, but. would
well,
they-
Heritage Days.
Maybe year end.
Okay. And then other revenues, 990. Budgeted for $30,666.67, but then it's only 3,000. So that's off by 2,000, 25,000. Plus.
112, 990.
Other revenues, 990, under administration revenue.
That's good. Another one while she's looking, and you want to go down. Are you ready?
I have to just look at my spreadsheet, sorry. It was the funding for the intern. That will be good.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. This is to November 30th. So sometimes things come in different times, right? So this doesn't reflect yet. We won't have the, like, mid-February,
Yeah, so do you.
probably we'll know the actuals for 2024.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that, right?
I mean, if
It's great.
some of the questions are answered, then.
Okay.
So this just gives you guys a good idea, moving into the budget, right? Of how we come up with our numbers. So then you can see that there's very clear, accurate budgeting and transparency and everything else. So that it might just help wrap your mind around when we're bringing forward the next numbers, right?
And I think that we all agree it should wait till January. If I could ask a question now on page, so I'm going to the third page where it says land sale revenue. So we budgeted for $80,000 and then we sold, I would say, I hope I'm saying it correctly. So we sold land for the value of $194,000. Is that correct or?
That would be all of our Cold Creek lots, all our Maria Close lots. We just, yeah. Because when we made the budget last year, we anticipated we're gonna hire a development officer, we're gonna sell at least 2 lots is what we budgeted for. But then we did a huge initiative where we reduced the cost of the lots and we sold all of our lots and more. So that's reflected in there. So we just did better than we expected. Again, a budget is your best estimate based on the currents
Yeah,
and it's going to change.
absolutely.
And then you might see on the other side, more expenses related to that, you know, that'll often happen where our revenues are high on this side, but then our expenses are high on this side because, right, but the revenue offsets the expenses, so it's a net zero.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I'm
No.
happy that we
Yeah.
sold land. I guess my concern, and I'm not an expert on this, but so if we're having land sales, should we not be putting that in a reserve or it's in our operating budget, right?
Well, at the end of the year, anything that's excess in revenues sitting in the account goes into reserves. Right, so if we make 100,000 more this year than we budgeted. Like if we don't, because we budget for 0, right? We're not gonna make anything, we budget to cover the expenses. But if we have revenues left at the end of the year, then we bring it back and you make a motion to put it into unrestricted reserves usually. But you could choose to, so that additional land revenues go into, you can.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
last meeting we were talking about a land
Yeah.
reserve, right? So is that?
I would wait till we won't know till at least February what our actual numbers are.
Evelyn?
But in an ideal world, shouldn't we be transferring 194,000 into this into a reserve? Because we shouldn't be using sale of land for operating, especially
But
when
there's
we're trying to
costs
develop.
to selling the land, right? So there's costs like putting in the water lines and like there's operating costs associated, so I would wait until we actually have our final numbers and see where we're at. And then
Which is February?
usually, yeah, by around mid to late February, we should have our actuals, March. But yeah, so then if we bring back our surplus was this, but maybe last year there was a deficit, there wasn't extra, right? So because we budget very tight.
Mel, did you have one comment or should I?
No, Dawn, I was just gonna say there's costs associated with it but hopefully there'll be a good portion. Yeah.
So you are expecting a surplus? You know what the surplus is?
We
By
budgeted
crossing
0.
the
Oh, we hope
We hope so, yeah. Yeah.
But you don't know if you have a surplus or a deficit right
We have
now.
a lot of grants and everything in here and all our actuals for the last, like a lot of, yes, it's November 30th, but it's not just December that's outstanding, right? Because November 30th doesn't include the revenues from utilities for November, for
Yes.
instance, right? So there's a lot of things that were invoiced for November operations that still haven't been received, right? Because businesses usually invoice you later. There's projects underway. There's still a lot outstanding for 2024. So
Yeah, but respectfully, this isn't cross your fingers. This
Oh,
is
no.
an educated guess. So what is your educated guess?
that our budget looks good.
Your
Your
budget
date looks reasonable.
Good as in we're gonna come in on a surplus.
I would anticipate, yeah.
Okay.
If,
Marianne?
yeah, and thank you, Dawn. So, I guess. Okay, so we know we're gonna wait till January to go over this again, or, would it be a benefit instead of, in addition to this, if we had a variance report and then we could say, this is here, this is there, we anticipate where we're going, or?
This is a variance report. For 2024. Right, it shows the percentage of the budget remaining is on the right-hand side. Right, so this is a variance report, but just for 2024.
Well, there's some categories that are over, because we know it's
Yeah.
only to
And you-
November, right?
Yeah.
But again, you're gonna have that, like, sometimes, like, if you get into public works, for instance, there's 15 pieces of equipment, I don't even know if that's.
More.
More than that, so there's dozens of pieces of equipment, and for every piece of equipment, we appoint a number, a dollar value. But what really matters is not whether we spent 2,500 on repairs on this piece of equipment, because that's the budget, it's that overall, all of our equipment costs. Because one year, this piece needs nothing and this piece needs more work. But the reason we keep the line by line instead of just saying our overall equipment repairs is this, is because when we bring it to you and say, we want to replace the skid steer, we've spent this much money on repairs, we know that number. Okay, so operating capital, we cannot move. If you approve a budget and this is this much for this project, we're not allowed to go over that at all without coming back to council. We can't say, well, we spent less on this one and more on this one, it balances.
Okay.
Operating, we can.
And
So there's some
Yeah.
just so you understand it.
You're
So,
teaching me,
so
yeah.
there's some flexibility in the operating budget. Like I said, sometimes your revenues are gonna be higher, but because of that, your expenses are higher. So you look at it at a glance, you're gonna say, well, but you're over budget, but we're not, because we actually offset that over here. So sometimes things that you overspend in some areas and save in some areas, because you're never gonna have, I don't know anybody that can budget and hit that dollar amount every year. It just doesn't happen. There's too many variances, power rates change, repairs change, water lines break, furnaces go down. So there's things that, but it's on both sides, right? In the ideal world, and we try to be very fiscally responsible. We're very, Crystal is very frugal. So she's very, everything goes through Crystal in the office, right? Because we want to make sure that there's not excess spending. John oversees his, and then and Crystal and I oversee that. So we're very, attention to those details.
absolutely. And
That's the challenge of going line by line, is it's more than just line by line. There's so many things tied to it.
and we're learning, so I
No,
appreciate
for
that.
sure.
And we
And I
identified.
welcome the questions, for
Yeah,
sure.
we identified in our strategic plan, we want transparency,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go to, and this will be my last
I was
question.
gonna
for the
say, we're on
time.
our last question.
So, I'm on page 4 and it's under the admin expenses, and we kind of referenced it a little bit. We do have grants to individuals and we're under, but we might not have all of them come through, kind of lower to the page. But then we also have that promotion, higher up is the promotions, that we're at 19,000 and grants are at 8,000. So I'm not sure what makes up the promotions.
That's the donations to the groups, isn't it?
No.
Oh, which one? Sorry, can you give me a number?
Oh, sorry, grants is 770, the last 3 numbers.
Okay,
And then,
okay, that's the one.
225. Promotions is 225, yeah, more.
Okay, I see them, yeah. And promotions is all of our advertising. And no,
Advertising.
okay. Oh, no, advertising's up.
Business cards. Building is in here. Previous.
That's swag and stuff.
Yeah, all of our promotional items are from this budget.
So Smoky Lake Oven Mitts,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is something I would actually like to discuss because.
yeah, business cards.
But I think it's coming back in trend.
If there's specifics that you guys would like to see in swag, we do have somebody new taking it on, so we'll have new.
Yeah.
We don't know who that is yet, but.
Talk about swag for a couple of years.
Great costs, food vouchers, like the candy, all the parade stuff goes into this budget.
Oh, yeah. And then there's fireworks, there's 226, there's that 10,000, but it actually cost us 14,000. 226 fireworks, the expenses. It's only supposed to cost 10,000, but it costs 14,000, but
Unless the fire department fundraised more, but we'll have to follow up on that. I did notice that, yeah. It shouldn't have been higher than 10.
Madam Mayor, Amy, we agreed that we'd make that motion into 5.1 to have the,
Can I also say, like, if you went through this and there were some areas that you're like, can you just, these are the questions I have, like, it gives us a chance to, instead of sitting in the meeting, looking up everything, we could have that information for you, that if you wanted.
My apologies, I didn't get the email till December 5th and I hadn't had time to work on it. So this is the first time that I can bring forward the questions. I mean,
Well,
we all,
yeah.
we all have busy schedules.
Like I
right?
said, yeah, for sure. I wasn't criticizing. I was just
Yeah,
saying,
no.
moving forward, if you have some questions and you send us the list, we can still bring them to the meeting publicly. No, we'd still bring them to the meeting publicly, but it allows us, instead of spending time during the meeting looking up the GLs and that, we'd have the information ready for you in a public meeting. So if anybody wanted to send any questions regarding finances, if we send you the 3-year and there's, if you have some questions, and again, I caution against getting too far in the weeds, but please feel free to send them to us. We'll still bring them up in a public meeting. And you don't even necessarily have to, but just offering that up.
Okay, well then I wanna know about fireworks.
I want to know
The
about
next one,
fireworks
so-
too, actually, so yeah, we're on the.
Since we're there.
I'm gonna make the motion that we, receive a hard copy or an email of the previous, when we were on council, 2022, 23, and we have 24, the 2 years of the line by line. Previous.
22 to 23.
Yeah, because we already have 2024. And that helps as a learning tool and I appreciate it. And I know you know your numbers, so it's just to help me learn and to be that transparent counsel.
It's important that you guys are comfortable
I
with the
do get
budget.
questions from
Yeah.
community members while we're spending where we're doing, and so I better want to answer those questions. So thank you for all that you put forward to make this meeting happen.
All right, so you can accept for information this one and
Yeah.
bring back the 22, 23.
Sure. Okay. I move that we accept for information and that administration provide a hard copy and a email copy of the previous line by lines for the year 2022 and 2023.
And include this as an agenda item on the next budget meeting.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment and to include on the next budget meeting, date to be determined at the next meeting.
All right, all in favor of Marianne's motion? All right, and unopposed?
Thank you.
Carried.
Thank you kindly, everyone.
Okay, cool.
Adjourn.
Meeting adjourned at noon.
So,
Yeah, I don't think you want me calling you at 1 in the morning. We're not going over.